Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have on Scott Page. Scott has been in many bands, Pink Floyd, Toto, Supertramp, just a few bands at the top, the big ones that people would know. He's been playing for years. He has a great history, a lineage with his father. We're going to learn about that, and his technology skills and knowledge and what he's doing now is even bigger. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm a Laughing Monkey alumni now after this show.
You are part of the family, the dysfunctional island of misfit toys.
Well, thanks for having me on your show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'd like you, if you could do a little mini bio, but my first introduction to you is, like most people, probably through Pink Floyd and the music in the 80s, and then your wonderful hair. You really stood out. You're quite a performer.
I need a haircut really bad right now.
I know, but back when I first saw you, you had power hair. You had the long, you did great. You had great hair.
One of the original mullets, man. I mean, I was one of the early mullet guys. Yeah.
That was like super Thor power. So, but to that point, you were a great performer, and I'm a Pink Floyd fan. So that introduced me, and then I realized that you were in Supertramp, which is another band I love, and you work with Toto, and you grew up with those guys. But then looking more into this, you have so much more history from your family. Could you maybe start off we can even start back and you can touch upon like from Lawrence Welk. I mean, your dad did a lot of stuff too. And then, I know, there's a lot of people don't know.
So, my father was a great musician. I mean, he played 14 instruments. He was a studio musician. And I actually grew up on a television show called The Lawrence Welk Show. He was in that band for, I think, 14, 15 years. So my early childhood days were hanging around in early TV, right? So that was really awesome. A lot of fun. That was a cool thing to have a dad on television every week. That was
actually Lawrence Welk, man. That's cool.
Yeah. So, and one of the things my dad, besides being a great musician, he was a serial entrepreneur. I mean, we had, when I grew up, we had boat businesses, lighting businesses, candy businesses. We had 26 donut shops at one time called Bill Page Donuts. And the logo of the sign was a saxophone with donuts coming out of it. Right. And then he was also one of the guys that invented the Wawa pedal, which is the famous guitar pedal. Right. So that he did with a guy, Brad Plunkett, who was the engineer that actually built it, but it was the whole thing. And my dad actually started the amplified instruments thing. He took a hearing aid and which flipped around was a microphone, and he put it on his clarinet, played through an amplifier, went to Thomas Organ Company, who owned Vox at the time, and said, hey, look, we can make, wind instruments amplified like guitars and stuff. And so they said, wow, cool. So they brought him on and consulted. And I remember my dad I came home from school one day and he says, I got to find a building to put his amplified orchestra. So he's building out all these instruments, amplified orchestra. He says, you want to go look at a building with me? So we got in the car that day after dinner. We drove out to this place, went in. It was out in the San Fernando Valley. We went and looked around, and big giant warehouse, and clapped. It was a big noise thing. And he said, let's build the studio here. Well, that studio became Sound City. And Sound City was one of the great, all-time classic studios of all time. I mean, the records that came out of there. Dave Grohl bought the console, the Neve console out of there, and it did a whole documentary about Sound City.
Good documentary, and there's a lot there. But that's incredible. Your dad.
So that's where I grew up. I grew up as a kid at Sound City. When I was a kid, it was called the Vox Sound Lab in those days, and that's where my dad, when he went into Brad and he talked about the Wawa, said he wanted to make his clarinet sound like Clyde McCoy, and Clyde McCoy was the trumpet player. Womp 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 womp. That was it. So my dad, can we do that? So Brad took a pedal, an organ pedal, put a potentiometer on it, and figured that out. And I remember my dad bringing that home the first day and going, "Wow, check this out! I can see myself now." When he brought it, was on a piece of wood, a thing, and a little simple pedal deal. And actually played for the first Wawa pedal at that time. And, look where that's gone. That's one of the classic guitar.
I mean, just right there, if you stop doing music right there, that's later like three legendary things. Lawrence Welk, the Wawa pedal, studio. I mean, that's already a huge start here.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, so growing up in that, and, I used to work in my dad's donut shop. I'll never forget that. We would have a lot of times we'd have the 20, we had all these donut shops, and sometimes the catering guys would be showing up at, 5:00 in the morning. So the donuts had to be ready to go. Well, sometimes these cooks wouldn't show up, and my dad would wake me up and say, because I was a master donut chef by that age, I was a little kid, but he would take me over to the place, and I'd cook donuts all night so that they could get the stuff in place. But yeah,
really?
grew up big time in the entrepreneurial spirit, and that's kind of where I've come from. So I'm one of those guys that loves art, art and, creative making stuff, but I also love the art of business. And so I've been myself a serial entrepreneur since then. I'm on my fourth company right now. I was lucky. I took one called Seventh Level with my business partners. We took public and we were a NASDAQ company. So that was a great ride being you're going out and raising a bunch of money and going building CD-ROM product. And so we did one of my sort of my favorite claims to fame is I worked with a gentleman by the name of Richard Merrick, who was an incredible engineer. And together we kind of produced and co-produced and directed the world's first interactive cartoon, which was called Toonland, starred Howie Mandel. And it was the, first, it was that whole idea of an interactive kind of educational cartoon for children. And that did really well. I mean, that was what got us to go public. We were able to, we actually went around, did our road show to raise the money for our public offering with a dancing broom on Windows, but it was running on Windows at the time because Windows wasn't much of a platform because everything was running under DOS, because Windows was a layer that kind of sat on top and which, ate up a lot of resources. So we had to build to a 386 25 megahertz Windows machine, which was with 4 mega RAM, figure out how to make animation and stuff work. So that was fascinating time, going through that whole tech period and kind of really inventing and developing, new technologies. We had a very strong technology team that built out our engine called Top Gun, which ran on top of Windows and was proving that Windows could be a multimedia machine. And it was always exciting because Bill Gates would always hold up our product and say, see, Windows is a great multimedia operating system. So he used it in all his speeches. So anyway, that was a real fun ride, but that's what really got me into the technology space. And since then I'd launched a handful of other tech companies through the years. And I'm now on my next one now, which is really around the NFT space. And we can get into that later, but yeah, I've had a pretty interesting ride. My whole life I wanted to do, my first thing was to do music. And then I wanted to do business because of my father and all the stuff they go on. And then the third thing, I wanted to do documentary, right? I wanted to get into it. So I've been collecting for years. I mean, 40 plus years, all of my road trips, boxes of just stuff that I put together. And now that this world of NFTs have come along, non-fungible tokens, which is another thing. It's the greatest thing that's happened to the independent artist, content holder, creator, to finally be able to take control of their assets and their publishing and everything now. So anyway, so I'm big in that area right now. So I've got all my stuff that I'm building out a whole set of NFTs things and, doing a bunch of things in that space. So this is my documentary part because I figured this is a great way to tell the story that I've kind of pulled together through all these years, through all these crazy road trips and stuff that I've done on the road. I've shot thousands of photos and, 150 hours of Pink Floyd video that I shot, and I'm building a lot of very interesting things like that for right now to get out there. But yeah, it's a very exciting time for artists today.
It's insane. I don't know how you'd find time to just to do the technology part, to find time to also be in all these bands and do all this music on the side and practice and maintain and enough hours a day for you.
I love it. I'm so thankful. I mean, I'm the most thankful. I've had more fun than any human being, and I'm alive to talk about it, which is enough to say after all those years on the road. I just love business so much. I love the art of art, and I love the art of business, and I like combining the two together. And it's just, I like it. And then, I'm not like it when it comes to technology, I understand tech pretty well. And, we had 40 engineers in one of our companies. And so I'm around engineering, and I kind of made my career since leaving kind of the mainstream music business, in the sense when I left Pink Floyd because my company started to take off, and it was just like, I had to go do that. Right. It took off. So that was a chance for me to kind of wear my own clothes, and had a real good run. I did that with Bob Ezrin, who was the, producer of Pink Floyd. He produced The Wall and all those great records. He's one of the great producers, record producers of all time. And so I really had a great time working with Bob through those years as we ran that company and kind of made that happen. But yeah, I love the art, and I love business, and I love combining it, and one of the things too, is I've been a startup guy. I've taught a lot of startup to new entrepreneurs and stuff. And I actually taught a class out at USC, which was kind of interesting to be a professor for a year. I teach a thing called space. which stands for Story, Plan, Army, Conversion, Education. And it's a framework, a business framework for artists to start their business, right? So, it uses lean startup principles, and, I use lean canvas, the one-page business plan. And so I've kind of molded that whole thing around to kind of help independent artists, because right now, this is the greatest time for any content creator, business maker, period, because we're really going into a total direct-to-consumer business model. And what I mean by that, that's why I love the NFT space, which NFTs are non-fungible tokens. They run on top of the blockchain, very similar to Bitcoin, right? It's kind of a coin where, a fungible token is something that exchangeable. So if you had a Bitcoin, I had a Bitcoin, I give you mine, you give me yours. We walk away, we still have a Bitcoin. That's the same, or a dollar bill we swap. Non-fungible is where you take the blockchain and you basically can connect it to a physical or a digital asset that makes it a one of a kind. So what that does is it basically takes everything and creates value out of it. And you're seeing this massive run right now. People can't quite grasp the concept of this token, and why would anybody pay, these Bored Apes? It's a little GIF, and they're selling for $350,000. And if you had a CryptoPunk now, it's close to $1 million, right? For this one little graphic. And people are like, I can't wrap my head. How could that be worth so much? But it is. And there's a reason for it. And again, it's like CryptoPunks now are almost considered, and CryptoKitties are considered digital antiques in this world, because there's only so many of them. And when you can authenticate something and prove that even a digital asset is the original digital asset, it changes the game. And everything's about to get tokenized. Virtually everything, your food, your house, your cars, every restaurant, every business will involve with non-fungible tokens. Why? Because they're non-fungible tokens are, what's nice about them is they're programmable. They're really experiences. They're fan engagement. NFT ticketing is going to be huge, because it's the place where the experience can start the minute you buy the ticket. And so it's and it all ties into what they're calling Web 3.0, which gets into the metaverse. So you're seeing the physical world of assets now making digital twins of everything to bring into the metaverse, right? And it's fascinating. It's like one of the artists, I don't remember, it was Alex Gray or one of them, I can't remember who it was, has created an NFT collection where it's a physical asset and a digital asset, and you have 1 year to decide which one you want to keep, and then one of them will be destroyed at the end. So if you decide to destroy the physical asset, then you have the original digital. If you want to destroy the digital, then you can have the physical asset. So it's the original. But what we're finding is more of the people want the digital asset than they want the actual physical piece of art. And which is interesting, right? You would think, oh, wow, I'd want the original because that's the proof of that. But because you can tokenize it, make that piece original, now that has more value for flex. Hey, I own this, copy of the Mona Lisa, this original of the Mona Lisa. That's a big deal in the digital world, because now everything's moving into the metaverse. So people are setting up galleries. I was actually in a gallery the other day in the metaverse a guy had built. It took 3.5 hours to walk through it. There were so many assets in there, and he had 8, I think it was 8 Bored Apes, and you can add that up. It's, 350, 400 grand a piece for those. He had a CryptoPunk, which is another $1 million. He had like a $5 million gallery right now in there in digital assets. And he's just a massive collector. And so it's a very interesting time. These new business models are coming out. And so I encourage anybody in business, in content, in creation, artist, whoever's out there, you definitely want to put your time into understanding the crypto world, not only the cryptocurrency, which is important because that's how this whole NFT world really works, is in the crypto space. Because it's really, if you take an asset and you put something, it's a form of currency. It's interesting. I go to these NFT drops. They have them in Beverly Hills. These people are doing these NFT drops. They do these big parties. And so people are saying, oh man, you're from Floyd, man. Would you come play my next drop? I said, sure. And they said, well, how much do you want? And I says, I don't want fee. I don't want money. I want NFTs. So you're going to pay me in NFTs, not in currency. Right. And they're like, why? Because if it's a good drop, those things can go through the moon, right? I mean, they can just go like crazy. You know, I mean, here a couple examples was this one guy basically did an art piece, sold it. He said, I'm going to sell it was a little animated digital asset. He says, I'm going to create, I'm going to sell as many of these as I can sell in 7 minutes on the auction block. He ended up, and they were $1,000 a piece. So he sold 4,000 of them. And then, so he made like 400 grand, like in 7 minutes. But then on the secondary market, because in the non-fungible token, there's a thing called a smart contract. And the smart contract allows you to put the rules, rights, and roles of everything around that specific asset. There's also a lot of these have a royalty built into them. Right. So we got to have a 10% royalty in it. So for everyone that's sold, well, that asset, those original drawings went for 1,000. A week or two later, we're selling for $118,000 a piece. So every time it sold going up, he got 10%, and he made $3.5 million off of that one asset in a period of like less 3 weeks or something like that. So it really is a game changer. There's no question we're going to go through a correction.
So let me ask you. So if that guy, if he sold his, so say the person who sold it, they would have to pay a percentage of the royalty back to him. Yeah, so somebody actually owned art and they just sold it to somebody else. It's 100% you. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you're kind of chained to that person forever in a way. It's good for the salesperson, but if you're a consumer, you still don't feel like you own yourself 100% because you're still kind of chained to that person, though.
Well, you're just getting a royalty, right? You're still giving the rights and roles, whatever you want to give to that person. You're just collecting your royalty on it, right? I created the movie. I just want my royalty. You guys go out and do whatever you can do. You make money off of it. Because see, that's the fundamental thing that happens now is in the fungible token market is the first time that the artist and the fan can both make money. Right. We can create something that I'm going to make money and you're going to make money too. Mm-hmm. And that's the value of this proposition. That's what's making it so exciting. So take the Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? The Bored Ape Yacht Club is the number one NFT project out there right now. And it's like, I think it's 10,000 of these little apes, the Bored Apes, and everyone is unique. So if there's 10,000 of them, you have whatever yours is a totally unique. Well, what's happened is those apes now, when you buy that, you're getting the rights to that particular ape inside that community. People are creating television shows, merchandise around those apes and making a bundle of money. So they bought the ape. It's almost like you're buying into let's say I'm going to buy into Mortal Kombat or something. I'm going to be able to I'm actually getting to buy it, or Pepsi. I'm getting to buy that piece of that brand, and then I can resell that brand and create new derivative works with it. So that whole community is blowing up. It's $1 billion property right now. When you look at it, and there's indexes, you can go look at the trading every day on, just like you would a stock. You can go look at the trading on these things. And, just the other day I was looking at it, the Bored Ape Yacht Club traded $7.5 million in a 24-hour period. So it's a whole new marketplace, way to generate money. And like I said, we're moving into a direct-to-consumer business.
Do you think there's a downside to it?
Is there a downside?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, if you buy something for $100,000 and it turns around and sells for $5,000, you lost a lot of money, right?
Well, no, I'm not. But that's like the stock markets. I'm saying, like, almost like you invest in something like, like you used to get like points on an album or something. And when the album keeps going, you're like, is there a certain part where, it's not going to be, the value isn't always going to be the same? Is it is it more of a gamble, or it's
speculative? Sure. I mean, again, if it's your artist. So imagine if you found this young band and it was called U2 and you were following them around in these clubs and you thought, man, these guys are going to be big. They put out a non-fungible token, a collection of stuff that they have when you bought it. And then they turn into U2, right? They become this giant band. If you own that token and stuff, that thing could be worth a ton of money. So you get to invest in the careers and stuff of these artists, which changes the game in such a big way. Plus, you can build experiences, so utility into them. So people that are selling these things, like the Kings of Leon when they released their last album, they did a drop. Yeah. They sold 20,000 of these NFT tokened albums. Same album you can still go buy in the store, but these are special because they have special things to them. They have special powers. In other words, they had certain things, had some tickets tied to it. They had some backstage experience. They had things that were there that when you bought that token, and they sold that whole thing out in 12 minutes. made $2 million in 12 minutes selling those tokens. But now I have that token, and on the market, those things are going out there. Somebody's saying, hey, I paid $500 for it. I want 1,000 for it. And somebody says, but I want to own that. They can sell it and trade it. So there's this whole secondary marketplace that starts to happen in this. But, really, like I said, this turns into everything that's going to happen. Your food's going to be tracked on the blockchain. Norwegian salmon. Well, how do I know that's Norwegian salmon when I go to the market? It says on the package, right? Well, by putting it on the blockchain, tokenizing it, and following it through the whole travel thing, getting on the boat, jumping off to where it was fat, where it was canned, whatever all the process was, that now authentically that particular thing is the real deal. So the blockchain does one major thing. It basically solves this problem. It's called trust, because everything is done on the blockchain, because once it gets into the ledger, you can't change it. That's it. You can add to it, but you can't change it. And it's totally exposed to anybody on the internet. You can go see, it's total transparency. You can see everything, the owners who and everything that went down. So this is a major revolution that we're seeing. And we're also seeing, a big shift now in our monetary system. If anybody's looking, if you look at the Western central banks and the Fed and everything, we're globally, there's a massive collapse about to go down financially, because we've just built up this, crazy monetary system. And now we're seeing people, if you think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I equate Bitcoin like a giant sponge in the sea of fiat currency, the US kind of dollars, just suck it up, because I can say, oh, I have my money in my bank. I can hook my freaking debit card up and say, I'm going to move 10 grand over here. Now I just moved it out of fiat. Now I'm in the crypto world, right? And one of the things that's so interesting about crypto is, if there's a run on the banks, anything's going to happen. What do? You can't go get your money. The machine, all that stuff goes down. In the crypto world, that's all portable. You can move that stuff around. And if it's on a Bitcoin, it's like a decentralized model. There's no way to really shut it down. So there's a lot of value in this right now that's going into this crypto space. And I think you're going to see massive run to that, especially as now we're seeing inflation go through the roof and them trying to print more money, which is just going to basically destroy our monetary system even further than we are. And, unfortunately, enslave us all to debt, because, they just reach over and say, hey, we need $6 trillion. No problem. 6. How many zeros was that? Type it in, go, oh, there you go. Here's $6 trillion. Give it to the people. Hey, you guys got to pay interest on that money, right? You got to pay us for using that money. Oh, right. So it's wacky what's going on, So I think you're seeing a massive revolution. And I think, cryptocurrency we've known as Bitcoin and all these other, different coins, Solana, Ethereum, all of that is the NFT, which is also a token, is really going to drive the use of that business too, of cryptocurrency. It's sort of a back end way, because it's dealing with an asset, because now you're creating value by connecting that blockchain to that asset, and people are trading them. So like I'm saying, you're seeing people, I know guys that are making millions of dollars off of trading this stuff right now. Now we're in the Wild West. It's a big thing. They're going to come in and regulate. There's going to be a whole bunch of issues, but this tokenization thing is not going to go away. It is definitely, from my point of view, again, I can never say never say never, always, I always never say, but I will say it's looking pretty like this is going to blow up the entire crypto world to really start bringing people on board, because it's easy for people to understand. My favorite YouTube artist is selling this little video and stuff, and I want to own that because that's like the only one in the world, and I'm going to be the guy that has that ownership. And in my gallery in the metaverse where all my friends hang out, I can show my asset, right? So that's much easier, and it's still a form of currency, right? So it's I think we're moving into a very interesting, and like I said, when I said direct to consumer, I'm talking about wallet to wallet, right? There's no middleman. And what's beautiful about it, you never have to audit the books, because once it's on the blockchain, the robot network or the blockchain basically does all that for you. So let's say you had a 10% royalty in it, or let's say you wrote a song, right? And there was 5 of us that wrote a song, and we say that day, 20%, 20%, 20%, everybody gets 20%. It goes into the contract of that actual token. Every time that song is sold, you're going to get your 20% as soon as it's sold, because it's just wallet to wallet. The contract divides the stuff up and sends it out at the same time. So, and then it tracks it forever. There's no middleman. I'm not going to the record label saying, I don't think I got my payments right. I want to audit the books. There's no audit the books. It's right there in the blockchain. It says this asset sold, it's done. Did you get paid? Everybody gets paid, right? So it's a very interesting model. And when you talk about direct to consumer, man, it's like all of a sudden, I don't need, as an artist, I don't need millions of people to care about me. I only need 1,000. If there's 1,000 people, there's a model that Kevin Kelly from Wired Magazine put out about 10, 15 years ago. It was called The 1,000 True Fans. And a true fan is somebody that'll spend $100 a year on you. If I have 1,000 of them, there's my first $100,000 in revenue. And then I can scale. So it really is just about a smaller group of people that really care, your hive. I always say, if you want to survive, you got to build a hive, because that's really where the model is. I have a friend that is she's a singer, artist. She's been doing the Warp Tour every year for 4 years. She's created her own little clothing line and all this stuff. She says, I have about 125 fans that support me, covers my nut for the entire year. 125 people, but she engages with them. She creates stuff. They come to her show. She's built that relationship with them, these sort of super fans. And then everything else on top of it's gravy, but she knows she got her nut covered by just servicing the fans that she cares about. And then she's growing that base. So, my whole model is go small. Stop with this trying to get out there of, artists trying to get my record out and getting all these streams. There's no money in the streaming business. I mean, for most artists, it's a horrible, horrible business because, what is it? 1 million streams gets you roughly around $4,000 to $5,000. Well, that sounds great, but getting 1 million streams, there's only a 2 to 3, 4% of all of the catalog of Spotify that even has 1 million streams on it. So right. All the 90+% of those people, they can't even make $4,000 off their records, right? So it's not a great business model for most artists. Now, obviously, there's the big ones that can get the plays that are on the playlist. And again, the playlists are all owned by all these streaming networks are owned by the labels, so they control the playlist. And it's all of that stuff again. But this NFT thing changes the game. Because now, with this is my 24-hour, Twitter's my 24-hour cocktail party. I can go on and start talking to build people all day long. I've got a direct access to the consumer. So as an artist, I just have to learn how to engage them and how do I create value for those people, right? So that's the whole trick. It's like, what problem am I solving, right?
I think two things. I know like Dweezil's app has a website called somebody else called Rewards. It's very similar to that model where it's based where an artist puts everything in one spot. The bandwidth is all paid. It is a small model for artists, and they're engaging. There's videos, they're talking to them. It's a whole type of thing like that. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of artists that are doing this right now. This model that you're talking about,
they're just starting. Come on, they don't understand it yet. Yeah, they don't understand it yet. So now, see the difference between using an NFT and that is, I'm now empowering my audience to make money. They get to make money too, right? So that's the
learning curve. What's the learning curve? You're one of the few people that do music and do technology. A lot of musicians have a hard time still doing Zoom.
Oh yeah,
and that's not a joke. I'm not making fun of it because some people it's just not their thing. They don't care.
No, right. That's why for me, it's about.
So that's a huge thing. I'm still trying to understand this stuff. I do technology for a living.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing is you got to go to school, right? You got to educate yourself. And the beautiful part is everything's online. I mean, like I suggest every artist should go do the 25 to 30 hour deep dive into non-fungible tokens. All you got to do is start writing in what is an NFT. Go write that into YouTube and you'll see all these things. Start watching these videos. How do I create an NFT? Boom, OpenSea. You got to learn. But I mean, I'm seeing things like this. Okay, a photographer. I go to these meetups. There's a bunch of these meetups. One in LA, in Glendale. So I went there the other day. And one of these artists, a photographer, young girl that just is not famous or anything. She's just an artist, shoots photography and trying to build a business around it. She got into NFTs about 6-9 months ago and has been doing her drops. And she was telling the story how that what was great is in her smart contract, she carved out a small percentage to her local community center because she wanted to support the community center. Well, here's this girl. She says it was so exciting that I was able to give them 2.5 Ether, which is about $10,000. So think about it. This is an artist that's just coming up, trying to be a photographer. Nobody knows her, just starting to create her career. She's actually was able to give to her local community $10,000. Tell me how many artists can do that. musicians, artists that are on the streets that are trying to figure it out. So this model changes everything because it creates value. And there is massive marketplace out there, like on OpenSea and Rarible, and there's places because people are now getting engaged with these artists because they see a value to buy it, and then they can turn around and sell it. So they can collect it. So that it depends. You start learning about the drops, what's happening there. And then those that want to support the artist, it's a great way to support the artist, right? And if the artist takes off, then their value of the thing they supported him with makes money. So it's a totally different kind of value exchange between the fan and the artist. And because of that, let's face it, everybody wants to win. And when I can engage my army of artists, my army of fans to go make money with me, right? It's incredible. I mean, now I can go do an NFT drop where I can say, I'm going to create this track. Here's a track. It's an NFT. You can buy this NFT and then you can go build on top of it. And then the one that comes out the best, then I'm going to put my stuff on top of what you do. I'm going to send out these assets. You create a track. I'm going to pick your track and then you and me are going to do it. And then we're going to share in the revenue. So now I can start creating models where I can start working with the fans and finding those people that we can generate together. So it's just such a game changer in so many ways. And when you start learning about what they call tokenomics, which is the whole what does your token do, right? What can my token do? What value can it have? Can it one NFT can unlock another NFT if certain conditions are made? So you can gamify these things. You create experiences around them, which allows you to basically engage with the fans in a totally different way. Right. So
how could you soft sell to newer people to bring them in though? Like artists need it and business people to start doing it. How do you bring fans to soft sell into it that people just, aren't aware of what it is?
Well, let's put it this way. There are the artist is going to, it's the exclusive thing. These are special experiences for the super fans. And so if you have enough value proposition into your token, excuse me, then they're gonna sign up. Now, where it gets tricky is a lot of times, like if you're using OpenSea, OpenSea is the biggest kind of NFT marketplace that's out there. You have to have a crypto wallet. So you go get MetaMask, which is a wallet that you can download from the App Store. MetaMask, you sign up, you do the whole thing, and then you can basically exchange. It's how you can take crypto and go buy NFTs and store your NFTs in these wallets, right? It's a little complicated for most people, but there are other ones that are coming out now that are where you can just use your USD credit card and buy the thing, and then it'll automatically do the stuff for you. You can do it. So that starts to get the model moving forward. So there's a big education piece right now. But again, what's good is I might be an artist and I might say, I'm going to put out my EP. I've teamed up with this great artist. We're mashing it together as an NFT. It's got utility. You're going to be able to come to all my shows. You're going to be able to get stuff. I'm going to be doing other drops that you're going to get that are going to be added on. There's specialty things. And I'm only going to sell 100 of those. And 100 of those are going to go for $500 because they're a complete collectible, or $300 or $200 or whatever that is. That you'll be surprised that there is a marketplace for that if you build it right. It's all about marketing. And the way these things are done now, you don't just make it and then put it up there. You pre-sell everything. It's called whitelisting. So you're going to set up the whitelist and start driving traffic to that. Hey, I'm going to be doing this drop. If you're interested, get on this list. These are the people that are going to get access to buy it. And people sign up, especially the collectors that are looking for things right now, because like I said, it's a Wild West. People are trying to grab up these assets, and a lot of them before people really understand what it is. So it's a way to generate a nice chunk of change and then build that royalty in that fan base. And it allows you to keep connecting with them and creating more value for them. So it's all a lot to learn yet. There's still a lot of things that have to be, it's Wild West. It's like I was listening to some calls the other day with people talking about a drop that's coming, and they talk about the tokenomics, and that's all of the governance that's around it. So there's a thing that's called the DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. And what that is, they'll have when you buy that NFT, you get voting rights. And then on the blockchain and stuff, now it's governance of the actual tokens that you buy as the community. So the community now starts to run the business. right? It's like a very interesting thing. So we've got this whole, it's like democracy. The people that are invested in it, they're the ones that get to control what the tokens do and what can happen with them. So it's a whole new way of thinking of business. And what we're finding is people are bypassing to raise money. It's like crazy. So these guys I know, they basically built this the idea is they wanted to raise money to build a metaverse. They created their token, this character thing, this frog thing, and blah, blah, blah. They went and sold. They basically sold $4 million of these in 12 hours to go build what they're going to go do. So you get the opportunity now to use the tokens to sell the tokens on the future of what's going to happen, and then raise the money to then go do the asset. So Amelia Kunis and Ashton Kutcher did a show called Stoner Cats. They raised all the funds by selling the NFTs prior to even making the show. So they sold all the stuff that they made, one of a kind drawings of the characters and all this stuff that people collected, because they're also betting if the show takes off that their assets are going to be worth something, right? So they raised money. So it's a great way to raise money. I think it's going to take down the whole concept, or not take down, but really dilute the whole idea of what do you call it?
GoFundMe. GoFundMe?
No, well, it's like a GoFundMe kind of thing, but LLCs, right? This is a new business model to go raise money. So these guys went out, they tried to get venture funding and everything, they couldn't do it. And then with it, they did a token thing within 3 months. They raised $4 million by doing this thing. And now they're off to the races and didn't have to take any venture money, didn't have to do anything, didn't have to dilute the company. They got access to the tokens, they create the stuff. So it's really the new way businesses are going to be freaking happening, right? So it's a very exciting thing. So any entrepreneur, anybody out there, I can't tell you how important it is. I think that if you're a business person and you actually want to go build your business, I don't care what it is, what kind of business. You can have a hair salon all the way down to clothing stores to restaurants. Once you grasp it, this is an amazing moment in time to grasp onto a whole new set of way to run your business and really build fan loyalty and customer loyalty like you've never done before, right?
That's amazing. Wow, it's a lot to digest. What about taxes? They get that locked down yet? How to tax people on this yet?
Well, yeah, obviously when you move from crypto into US dollars, the like Coinbase and some of these places, they all control they give you a ledger, basically of your trades, and you got to pay your taxes like you normally would, right? There's no, once you convert back to USD, you're going to get hit with the taxes, the gains on what you bought it at and what stuff. So there's no question taxes, and those laws are going to be changing more and more. I mean, there's a lot of people, when you don't go out of crypto though, you're in good shape. You're not having to pay taxes.
It feels like you could move it to another country. Like you can make a deal in America. And it feels like it's really good for criminals too. You can just move the money elsewhere, and then obviously anything that's good for anybody can be used for evil. So I mean, I'm not going there with it either.
That's the point.
But the point is, everyone's always had a hard time locking down money by moving it from country to country, just physical money and banking. Something like this is really, you can move it anywhere with the best, taxes or whatever, and cash it in there in another country or move stuff around.
There's a lot of people working on all kinds of ways not to pay taxes because, if you look at the taxes, we're slaves. I mean, think about it. I mean, in inflation, when, I remember gas at 35 cents, right? Well, what's changed in that gas? There's nothing. The only thing that's changed is the value of the dollar has dropped because of basically no gold standard, nothing against it. And they just inflated it to that point. So, and we're basically slaves to paying taxes to so many things that it just doesn't make any sense. It's all this debt that they're putting us into. So this is, like I said, we're at a revolutionary point right now in just the history of our country, like I've never seen before. This is a pivotal moment. And you're even seeing it too, because of the banking system, they're freaking out about crypto because the banks, you basically bypass the bank. The bank is my wallet to your wallet. That's the bank.
Well, it almost feels too good to be true. It sounds like that's what I'm saying. To me, it feels like it's almost too good to be true when you hear the good parts of it,
Well, yeah,
it feels like there's an angle here, Well,
there's no question they're trying to do everything they can to knock it out because the last thing they want to do, the central bank want to lose control, right? Because losing control is like, why do I need to I don't need a bank. I don't need a third party. Just look at, if I want to send you $10,000 and you're over in Europe right now, you know how long it's going to take me? Days to do that. I got to go through this thing. The banks are going to verify. They're going to charge me all these fees. In crypto, I can just go, here you go, dude, wallet to wallet. We're done. $10,000, no problem. Or $10,000 worth of form of a crypto. Right. And the fact is that it's portable, you know, and it's decentralized, so it's not going to get shut down. Now, there are issues. We're still at the Wild West, and there's things going on, but you know, it's an area you definitely want to follow. I mean, I have a friend that's she's a data scientist. She took $6,000 18 months ago and turned it into $3.5 million by trading crypto, over just getting into it over the holidays here, or over the COVID lockdowns. Right. Basically took a deep dive into it and started figuring it out. And, you know, there's a lot of money. I mean, crypto, if you think about it, the Bitcoin went from $1 to $50,000 in less than 10 years, which is crazy. No asset classes, everything. And they've said it's dead, it's over. How many times, you know, the collapse, this, and now they're still screaming, because you see the people screaming is all the bankers and everything. Oh, crypto is going to go to zero. It's a complete Ponzi scheme. It's all of that. Well, you know, tell that to Elon Musk. It's put billions of dollars. I mean, all these guys, these big corporations, because they're realizing if I'm sitting on a $200 million balance sheet in my company and I'm looking at fiat currency, I'm not making any money on that. So that's why a lot of these guys are moving this excess dollar into Bitcoin. And again, if they did it, they've doubled, tripled their money in a very short period of time in some cases. Now, don't get me wrong. It's up, it's down, it's volatile. And
that's like the stock market at some level. The value could change. It could drop, you could lose, it could bottom out.
Yeah, so I personally I would rather have my money in crypto than in US dollars.
Right.
To be honest, because I just feel that it's actually safer there than it is in the banks, from my point of view, right? Because I'm looking at, I follow the global finance markets and all this stuff, and this inflation they're doing. I mean, it's like the taxation we've never heard. I mean, we're getting killed right now. I mean, and we're not done. This is going to go through the roof, and so it's one of those things you got to figure out where you're going to go, buy some gold, buy some silver, and buy crypto. I'm there until this all gets figured out, right? What's going to happen, because you could wake up one day and all things could be gone. And so you want to make sure you diversify, but physical assets are the right kind of things and stuff at this time. But, definitely it's important to learn. And what's nice about the crypto space, you got to be careful, because you got to understand how to store the stuff and protect it so that it's gone. We want to learn hardware wallets. That's why if you're going to get into this, you need to dive in and get educated. You don't just start throwing stuff at it. Now, educate yourself, go through $100. Go open a Coinbase account and put $100, a couple $100 in there, and start trading and start learning how this works. Go on YouTube. There's a girl by the name, she goes by Crypto Casey on YouTube. If you Google her or put her into in YouTube, she's incredible explaining stuff. You just got to go down the rabbit hole, start learning, start getting an understanding, but start putting a little money in savings just to put it into Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is like gold. It's a store of value. It's not like as much for the trading aspect of it. It's more like there's 21 million coins ever. That's it. There'll never be any more, right? And we know 3 million of them are lost during the early days. So you're like, 17, 18 million real coins out there. And, scarcity and supply and demand is just driving this thing up. Right. And like, we're at 45,000, they're trying to kill it right now, knock it back down again. As this stuff gets knocked down, I mean, just start throwing a little money into it. And if nothing, just put it into Bitcoin and put it away. Right. I mean, and take a shot, because they're talking about Bitcoin being $1 million. So if you put it in there, tell me what asset you're going to put money into today that's going to even have a shot. It may take 2-3 years, but I mean, there's a lot of talk. I think the next batch, especially if this inflation goes through all this stuff, people are going to be looking for saving. Where am I going to put my money that's going to give me some growth? You're going to see more going into that marketplace, which will most likely drive it up. But again, I'm not giving anybody, I'm not telling you advice. I'm just saying, from my point of view, you don't want to miss this opportunity to look at, because it's not like there isn't people making a ton of dough. Here's a great funny story. I belong to this men's group called Metal, Media Entertainment Technology Artist Leaders. It's been going on since the early 90s, right? And um, and so we went to this meeting, and these guys, this group happens to have a bunch of the biggest crypto people there, and they were up there talking about it, and they were saying, everybody should buy some of this. It was either $7 or $70 a coin. I can't remember. It was seven somethings, and we should buy this stuff, right? And so I thought, I'm gonna. It was too early. It was so early. It's 2010, 11, early days. So I didn't really do it. So I get a call from a friend of mine in 2017, and he says, Paige, can you come over here? I want to talk to you. I said, what is he? He said, I don't want to talk about it on the phone. I said, what is it? He says, I really don't want to talk about it on the phone. Everything's okay, but can you come over? I said, okay. So I come over to his house, and he says, dude, you remember that day we were sitting there and the dudes, our buddies, were all telling us to go buy that? He says, I took a fluke. I bought $50,000 worth.
Whoa.
He opened up his digital wallet. He had $90 million in his wallet.
What?
$90 million in his wallet. I was like, what? Yeah, because it went up to like 16,000 or whatever. Well, I forget the number was. And he was like, dude, what do I do? How do you get out? Because it was hard. You can't just say, oh, I got $90 million. I want to cash out. It doesn't work that way. It didn't work that way. More, it wasn't as liquid in those times. Well, I said, there's a Ferrari dealer down in Newport Beach. Go buy 10 Ferraris, right? And with Bitcoin, they'll take Bitcoin. And so he went and bought a $6 million house. And I think he bought 5 or 6 Ferraris. And then he turned around and sold the Ferraris to get the fiat, to get the cash out of it. So I have no idea what he's worth now that we're up more closer to that 40, 45, 46, $47,000 right now.
Man,
right?
that's like buying island money. That's crazy.
Oh yeah. He was scared. He was just, I'm just a guy. He didn't want anybody to know. He was scared because, of anybody like finding out, kidnapping his kids and whatever. There's all kinds of craziness that goes on in that world, so.
That is insane.
Fascinating, right?
I'm definitely going to do some deep diving. I'm easy for deep diving.
You want to do deep dive. Yeah, man. NFTs, go in there, just use Google, just start going at it. Start following Gary V. Vaynerchuk. He's like, Gary Vaynerchuk is a big proponent. He really understands it. And so I would really suggest, you want to find some people that are really in the game. Gary V is definitely one of them. There's quite a few, but, go on Twitter, type in, hashtag NFT, start following everybody you can in the NFT space and just start learning, reading, eating, sleeping. I spend, when I'm not working business wise, I'm all day in NFTs now, everything, because the opportunity is so big and so awesome. And we're really at the beginning of it. It's not like anybody's missed anything yet, but those that jump on the bandwagon now will figure it out. Now, some people are going to lose their ass. There's no question, right? They're going to get in high. They're going to do things wrong, but that's why you want to get in there and start learning. You want to learn about how to have crypto wallets that are hardwired wallets like the Trezor that you can basically put your assets on. So it protects things. You got to learn how to secure and stuff, because if you lose your seed phrase, which is the thing that allows you to find your crypto again, or if you give out your private key, you can lose everything. And once it's gone, if you lose your wallet, you lose your passwords, you don't have your stuff, it's gone. It's done.
It sounds like the plot of every action movie coming out now.
Yeah. So you have to be very careful about how you manage and store your assets and what you do. But that's why before you do anything, you want to go jump in and start doing the education and spend that 25, 30 hours deep diving into the game. And, start, like I said, dollar cost averaging, maybe lightly into Bitcoin, just a little bit at a time, right? You don't have to go crazy, but just start putting a little bit in once a month, put a couple $100 in if you can or whatever. And, it's a ride that you want to, I think is worth taking a shot at. Obviously it's risky, but the risk is getting less and less as all these institutions and as the big buyers are coming into the marketplace, right? So it's just, don't put anything you can't lose in, but it could be just great for you over time, right?
That's amazing. Thank you. This is a little education and bonus education today. I thought we were just going to kill the music, but this is
yeah, I always go this way. We all know about the music part, but it's like, how do I make money in music? How do I survive now?
Well, that's important, actually.
It's important for artists, and I think them to understand. And I'm a big proponent of trying to educate people and show them this opportunity, because even like that girl, the photography girl, she jumped in 6 months later. She's making an incredible living. She's supporting her community, and she's really nobody that anybody would know. It's not like you have all this craziness that you would have, but like you're really famous, you can make it happen. No, this is about your community. You start small, you get your supporters, you get around it, you start learning how this works. works. And, you might come up with something that's just so cool that just goes through the roof and takes you to the next level. But it is totally fan engagement and experience. That's why these are important to understand. And, I'm just a big proponent of, as an artist, creating your art. It's the art of making what you do and the art of business coming together, which creates the environment for you to succeed, because it's not about like selling out. It's about getting to the point where you can really do your art and have the ways to support yourself where you're spending all your time doing what you're doing. Right. So this is the greatest opportunity that I've ever seen in my entire career for the artist. It takes all the power away from the big guys and puts it back into your hands to control it. And the blockchain helps you do all that heavy lifting that you were relying on the record companies to do, to manage your, where the money's flowing and how it's coming in. And this is totally transparent. You get all your royalties. You're right. It's publishing, it's source, and then derivative works. It's everything. So, if I left anything for anybody out there, and again, anybody that's starting a business, this is about direct to consumer business models, and it ties in. I don't care what business you're doing, because these are experiences. Even if you own a salon business, NFTs can be those golden tickets for unique things for your salons, and things that you can bring, retreats that you may put on, and ways of selling other bundled kind of services into your stuff. And, it's just, but you have to grasp what it is. And once you understand tokenization, it's like, I remember I was like, okay, I've been around crypto, and I kind of watched the crypto punks and the crypto, crypto kitties when that first came out. And I'm like, okay, I still didn't get it. And then I remember sitting in bed one night, and I sat up and I went, holy cow, I get it now. But the light went off. And I went, this is the biggest thing. From that moment, I was like 100% in. Right. So
excellent.
There you go.
So that's excellent. Last note we'll end on is you have a Think EXP.
Think Experience is my company. It's an experience entertainment, immersive entertainment company. And then I have my band Think X, which is basically my band with Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction, Nord Fisher from Fishbone, and Kenny Olds from Kid Rock's band. And then we have guys that we work with, the great Eric Day, who's going out. He'll be opening up for Motley Crue this year. And then Will Champlin, he goes by Kill Will, who is a monster singer, keyboard artist coming up. We have this band Think X. And so we play gigs. We've been doing before COVID, we did 40 shows in this immersive dome in downtown Los Angeles. We just started them up. We did another one last Friday, got 2 coming up in February. And then my whole thing is I'm around all this NFTs. I'm speaking and doing a thing at CES for Nifty Agenda. Then I'm going to Sundance, and I'm speaking there about NFTs. And then we're launching NFT LA, which I'm one of the sort of co-producers. I'm producing the live events after the big conference that'll be happening at LA Live coming up. So it's all about NFTs, all about experience. We're going to be doing live minting, real-time stuff, streaming into the metaverse, live shows. And so I'm really involved in this whole new model of Web3 and where the money is by business models. And what's great is it's the opportunity to really do some good too, because you can build things into these contracts that can actually support and solve other problems. So I think this is a real artist renaissance that we're seeing, and I'm having the most fun that I've had in years. I feel like a kid again being in this, because it's
contagious.
So powerful.
You're giving off a contagious feeling as you share this. It's exciting.
It's all about the community. And I've never seen a community like this. And I really believe we're in this great awakening on the planet right now. You're seeing people stand up for their rights and stuff worldwide. And there's just a big shift of power that's going on in crypto and all this, and this direct to artist to the fan direct, and money exchanges direct, no middleman. I mean, this is a massive revolution. And you're seeing these communities. I just came back from Decentral Con in Miami. I spoke on a panel there, but it was the whole week of just stuff with Art Basel. It should have been called NFT Basel, because everybody's realizing for the art community, this is how they're going to basically control and make their money and be in control of their lives again and take back the power, which is what's happening. This is a power grab.
That's incredible. And so they can reach you at your website, right?
My thing is just everything is I am Scott Page. I am Scott Page. That's it. At I am Scott Page. You can find me on all the different channels. And again, I'm on Instagram or something. If somebody finds me or Twitter or whatever, just hit me up. I talk to everybody. So And I can hip them on to what's going on. And I'm actually very excited today. Oh, let me do this real quick.
Yeah.
So I'm having a drop of, I'm part of a new drop that just launched yesterday called Alist Apes. And it's basically kind of part of this whole global thing here. I'm going to see if I can find this real quick. This is fun. I'll show you we did a series of, I became an A-list ape here. Hold on, where's my thing here? Hold on. Let me see, Zach. Where are we, guys? Here we go. Okay, here we go. This will get you right here. So these are our first apes. So here's my first. This will be my one of a kind A-list ape. Right, that's me. They did our whole band. We've got Stephen Perkins there. We've got Kenny Olson there, and then we've got Norwood Fisher there. So we have our drop, A-list apes. The drop is just happening today, the whitelist. It's going great, and I'm excited to be part of that project. So there you go.
It's a scoop, an exclusive. That's awesome. This has been really good. I want to thank you, man.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Thank you on your show and letting me spew for an hour.
I love it. This is exactly what people need to hear, and I'll probably dive into it. Maybe I'll reach out to you next year and be like, all right, I got some questions now.
Very good.
All right. Thank you, man.
All right, my friend.